Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America, where each episode we bring you a fresh and insightful interview featuring one of the film industry's top directors, conducted by one of their peers. Please take a second to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. This episode takes us behind the scenes of director Jim McKay's new drama, El Septimo Dia. The film examines the plight of undocumented immigrants by focusing in on a pivotal week in the life of Jose, a delivery man who works long hours 6 days a week trying to survive and make it in America. He spends his one day off vying for the top spot in the neighborhood soccer league. When his boss demands that he work on the same day that his team is scheduled to play in the championship finals, Jose is trapped between his demands as team captain and the reality that his job may be the only avenue to getting his papers and bringing his pregnant wife to the U.S. In addition to El Septimo Dia, Mr. McKay's credits include the feature films Girls Town, Our Song, and Everyday People, the movie for television Angel, and episodes of the series The Wire, Big Love, Law & Order, In Treatment, Mr. Robot, The Good Wife, and The Good Fight. Following a recent screening of the film at the DGA Theater in New York, Mr. McKay spoke with director Rebecca Miller about filming El Septimo Dia. During their discussion, Mr. McKay talks about his street casting approach to finding actors, the challenges of shooting on such a low budget in New York, and how he wanted to make a film that was connected to current issues, but not about current issues.
Hello.
So I'm so excited to be here and to be able to talk to you. I love the film. I saw it the other day on a Thursday night, and it was packed. I was just saying to Jim that, it's an amazing thing to I'm always so happy to see a film of this kind, a real independent film that people want to see. That's an exciting thing in itself. So one of the things I wanted to ask you was, I'm fascinated by the fact that it seems like you worked with non-actors. Is that correct? Yeah. And so what was the process? How long was it, and how did you work with them?
We cast on the street. We did street casting. At the very beginning, we did flyers that we hung mostly in Sunset Park. We did a couple days in East Harlem and Flushing, but it was scripted to take place in Sunset Park, so I wanted to go ahead and start there, and so we did a big open call, and then we just started, and that was like people come in and you just meet them and talk to them, and kind of get to know them and get their information and everything, and then we would give them a scene to come back and read. We had to kind of explain what that was even, no one had ever seen a script before. I think like maybe 2 or 3 actors came in the course of the whole thing, and none of them made it into the movie, actually. But then we realized it was probably smarter to just go out in the street with a video camera and a team of people and take care of that first part of the process there. So we would pull people aside and chat with them, and we'd tape the conversation. And then if I thought they were interesting, we'd give them a scene right there. And almost everybody got some Jose scenes right away. And then we would kind of figure out from there who was going to get something different. And that went on for a total of like 7 months, although it's not like we did it every weekend or anything. It was, we saw under 200 people in the end. And so many of them are actually in the film. It was interesting when we got the main cast, then when we actually were prepping and getting anything ready, we were like, oh, we need a dishwasher, for the background. And Lindsay, one of our producers, Lindsay Cordero, was like, oh, I'll call Eric, who auditioned, and he almost made it, in. And my instinct from working like with act, I was like, that's insulting, kind of. He's not gonna want to do it. Come on, he auditioned for it, and she's like, no. And everybody like was very happy to come in and do stuff. So that was great. So we had this like pool of people for background actors as well. At the very end, it was December, and we knew who Elmer was and we knew who Jose was. And then we brought them all in for 2 days in a row and put them in groups to see how they work with one another and if they felt right as a group, and then we made our final selections. Like there was Felix and Jesus were kind of like two somewhat similar characters on the page and could kind of go in different directions, and so they would read those. And
so once you'd selected your actors and you were in how long did you have a rehearsal process?
We really didn't. We had we landed on our cast in December. We right away started football practices in Red Hook. We practiced on Thursday nights and Sunday afternoons through the winter. It was a really warm winter, and it was great. Not for the planet, but for the movie. And we did that through April or whatever. Then we had a table read, which was fantastic. Because this whole time, everybody was just saying, like, what's going on? When are we doing this thing? They knew that I had made things, but they just were just really kind of, it was all up in the air a little bit. And the read-through was this great, like, solid thing where we, as do you do read-throughs when you...
It depends. I did, my last film, I did do a read-through, yeah.
And did you find it helpful?
I found it good, yeah. I have this strange thing where I sometimes feel like I don't want actors to... It's like I want everything to be a secret from other people. Like there is like not the opposite of theater. So I've often approached it in a very different way. But I found that my last film, because it was a comedy, I needed to know how things were firing and stuff. So, but no, I'm just fascinated by it because your performances are so realistic, so real, and that was that just that you cast people that had they had the gift to sound like they were really talking, or did you actually have to work with them, and did you work in Spanish, or how did you work?
Because everybody came back so many times, I think the auditions were rehearsals in some weird way, and acting class to some degree. Like we did a lot of takes, because I needed to know that they, if they were going to advance in the auditions, that there was a reason for that. When I was first thinking about the film, though, I did think that we were going to have a different kind of movie. One of my favorite filmmakers is Jafar Panahi, who's from Iran, and I think he has a new film coming out very soon that was in Cannes. He made a film called Crimson Gold that I'm a big fan of. He made The White Balloon, I think, and he directed some scripts that Kiarostami wrote, and he uses non-actors a lot. And I really like that kind of stiffness. I like watching films that it's pretty clear that they're not actors, but they're still, it's fiction. It's also clear that it's fiction. There's just a nice tone to it, and I think I kind of thought this was going to be that maybe, and then they all were really good, and and then the challenge was the couple who were like on the edge, to lift them up.
Right.
We had a lot of people glancing at the camera. I mean, I can't imagine to never do this ever and then come in and have like a boom over your head and people like in the corner ducking. And
do you speak Spanish?
My Spanish is very poor. I'm not fluent. So probably half of the main cast speak English well or decent, and then a number of them don't hardly at all. And so, I mean, I can speak when I have to. I can communicate when I have to. I don't do it in public because it's embarrassing. But, their English is poor too. So, like, we're in the same boat. So they're trying to say stuff, and I'm getting what they're saying. And it's not the ideal way to work at all. I mean, it's definitely not, I've tried a zillion times I had a lot of Spanish language in my second film, Our Song. And I just don't have the thing in my brain that's firing.
Caroline Kaplan, one of your producers, who also produced one of my films or two of my films, and I adore her. She was saying that some of these guys were working and had to just come in on a Sunday. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we did exactly to make the film. We did what the boss does in the film. I mean, Sunday was the one day when we could shoot all the soccer stuff and the apartment stuff, because that was really the day that all of them. Fernando, who he's in so much stuff, he quit his job in order to do the film, and he told the boss he was going to visit a cousin in Texas, and he would be away for a month. And then when we wrapped, he took a couple extra weeks, and then he went back, and he didn't get his job back right away. They were playing hardball with him, and then he did get his job back. He really works hard. He lays concrete and does rigging, and so he had to quit his job, but everybody else didn't. And the scheduling was insane. I mean, it was really crazy. You know, someone would have to ask if they could leave early on a Thursday to do their scene, and it was just a real patchwork. And 2 guys got fired in the course of the film.
From their jobs.
From their jobs, because I guess we were just taking them more often than the boss had thought.
Yeah. So I'll ask if anyone has a question. I have other things I'm going to be greedily asking, but if anybody has a question. Somebody back there, yeah?
Well,
So the question is, how many days did you end up shooting?
we did a 5-day-a-week schedule that I think, was it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or was it Saturday? I'm not sure, but it centered, around every Saturday and Sunday. And we shot for a total of 19 days. And then we reshot a couple things and did some pickups. I think we did 3 half days of pickups. And the one thing is we had to shoot the rain stuff. We shot all the stuff inside, but it did not rain the entire shoot, and it didn't rain the entire summer. And September came, and it didn't rain. It finally rained on a Columbus Day weekend, and I was out of town. And then in October, I was freaking out because the leaves were changing, and it was getting cold, and I thought, we have to do this, And there was a Teamster on one of my TV jobs who was like, Jim, I'll get you a truck. You can, I'll get you a good deal. I was like, you don't understand what kind of movie this is. You could get us a truck, but we don't have anything else that would have to go around that. We didn't have any permits. This was the DGA film, and the DGA was, I came into the Guild when I made my 3rd film, and in 2004, I think, and I was always worried from the very beginning, I'm gonna want to do a tiny little movie again. My first 2 films were $100,000 movies, and I was always worried, what's gonna happen? Will I be able to now that I'm in the Guild? And I have to say, it was very doable. They were fantastic, and very easy to work with. And it was really nice because we got to, Kevin Pasmino, who's our first AD, he's first AD'd, but he's UPM'd a little bit, but he got to UPM more. And then Glenn Stewart, who is our second AD, he was a PA on The Good Wife, and he literally got his days and got in the union the week before we started shooting, and he was this ass-kicking PA on The Good Wife, and I heard him speaking Spanish one day in the hallway. I was like, we have to talk, and he seconded the film. Fantastic. And he was amazing. So it's nice to be able to use people who haven't necessarily done that exact thing, but they're gonna hustle their off because it's a challenge for them.
Yeah. So one of the many things I loved about this film was the way that there was a kind of heroic, almost superhero quality about the way you shot him with his translucent cape going through and I love the way you use wind, and I felt like you were getting obsessed with wind and the qualities of wind. And I was wondering if did you think, oh, I know how this cape is going to work, or this thing, or did you just think, oh my God, I love this so much?
Yeah, no, it's all accidental. I love most great things in my movies are totally accidental. It's nice when you're done and someone goes, oh, that thing, and you're like, yeah, I meant that. We're doing it. I mean, I knew he was going to wear the thing, and we're doing it, and they could only find blue. I think we initially wanted something different, and I was like, this is great, and I don't think the costume designer liked it, but, at first it's kind of this is weird. This is we're thinking should we tuck it in or whatever, and so thankfully we didn't do that. But then this shot that I call the Sisyphus shot, when he's chaining the bike in the wind, when we were shooting that by Industry City in Sunset Park, it was insane. People could barely stand up while we're getting the shot. I mean, they were really having to hold on to things. And I was actually really like, I was not in a good mood. I was just thinking like, we're never going to use this. This is like, it's ridiculous. You know, the camera must be shaky and everything. And then it turned out to be one of my favorite shots in the movie, you know.
Yeah, it felt like the wind is almost a character, like that he's always going against it, and you know. One of the things I thought also was really kind of wonderful was the way that you didn't, you know, it's a very delicate thing to do something that at least seems like it has a political feeling to it or spirit in it. But at the same time, the dialogue and the way that you write is so, it's very subtle. And it's just about people. And you get the feeling like just the act of making a movie about this person and making him the center, whereas that character is really in the periphery of most of our lives, you know, on our daily life, is in itself a political act. And I was just curious about how you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, we just started, I think we're in our 4th week of the theatrical release, and it's really sinking in this great way, and we're doing a lot of Q&As also. This is coming up a lot. Like, it's, you know, everything's changing. It was changing month to month, and then week to week, and now hour to hour in terms of the immigration situation. And I feel I'm so glad it wasn't tied to one moment at all, and it wasn't issue oriented, because it's just it's separate from that. And I think in a weird way it's been soothing to audiences as well to go see something that's somehow connected with the issues but not about the issues. And my first film, Girlstown, was like crazily didactic, this feminist screed, you know, and very purposefully so. And then my second film, Our Song, I was trying to like back off of it. But like when I watch it now, it's still a little pointed, a lot pointed, and it's a little heavy-handed at times. And I think with every film I've done, I've tried to just back away and back away and back away, and just let the situations speak, you know. And yeah, so that's you know, I think the priest scene is the one scene where you get a little like, you know, a little politics. Which,
right, and I read that you were considering, you had a different speech for him, and then it changed. Can you explain that?
Yeah. I have 2 friends who are professors at St. John's and Brooklyn College, and they're great friends, and they're big supporters, and they had read the script, and we had this great, they both wrote me letters, and then they commented on each other's letters, and we had this back and forth about the priest, who initially was actually one of the people in the mix who was saying, like, I get your passion, but you have a responsibility. You know, I was thinking about like a little bit more of a conservative church to some degree, and our conversations led to the opposite happening. You know, which I think was really, really important.
The opposite in the sense that he's more of an activist.
Yeah,
priest.
exactly. Yeah. And the guy who plays him is an activist priest. He's one of the founders of New Sanctuary Coalition, which is extremely active right now in the city, taking people into churches who have deportation dates, so he was great to just have a part of the process as well, because most of the actors were not political really at all. Some of them, a couple of them, and then a bunch of them have really become politicized through the process, which has been really interesting to see.
Overall, do you have a sense that the Latin audience has a different take on it than the sort of non-Latin audience, or has a particular response?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure, you know, I think there's a difference simply because like one audience is seeing the other and one audience is seeing themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and but all the Latinos audiences, the Mexican audiences who have been coming, and we've had great, like really mixed audiences, even at IFC, which has been really nice. I don't know, everybody seems to be digging it.
Yeah. Is there any other? If there had been 2 more days to this story, would he have gone back to his boss?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I have ideas about that, you know. But I like the idea of just, for me, leaving a film with questions in your mind and conversation points is always Well, that last scene was initially scripted to take place in the middle of the film, on the I can't remember which day of the week, but it's when he comes in and he says, Artemio's leg is really bad. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, it was supposed to be scripted. So we shot the bar scene on a Saturday night until like 3 a.m. And then we went to go into the subway in downtown Brooklyn. And when we got there, we said, okay, let's just rehearse on the sidewalk, because we know you're going to come down the stairs of the subway, you're carrying the bikes, you're going to turn, and you're going to encounter this guy playing. But let's actually walk it through so that once we get down there, we can do it quickly so we don't get arrested, even though it's like really early in the morning. And we did it like 3 or 4 times and timed it out. And the sun was starting to come up, and I was like, this is beautiful. Let's just shoot, And my producers said, Jim, are you doing this just because you're concerned, about getting arrested? And I was like, no. I think this is the right thing to do. And then it was just great. I think we did maybe 3 takes of it. And then I remember going to bed, at 7 a.m. or whatever, and thinking, I think that's going to be the last scene. And then realizing and I don't think I even realized this till I actually watched the edit. It's a complete bookend of the first scene where they come around the corner with the bikes and they go to their first Monday's day of work and they see Baltazar and they tell him about the game. And then it's the end, but they don't have their jobs. I mean, I think Jesus is actually going to go to the restaurant and pick up his check and say, give me my money that you owe me. And I think Jose will probably wait outside. And then they're going to find Artemio some work. And, I like the idea, though, that for me, I feel really good about where they're headed. I feel like they have shown what they're capable of and their strength, and they're going to be fine. It's a pain in the ass and it sucks, but they're going to be fine. No, I took pictures like a long time ago, not ever really professionally, but
every frame looked like a still photograph.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is Charlie Libin, who's the director of photography, who has worked for many, many years as a camera operator. He was one of Jonathan Demme's main guys on his features, and he DP'd a bunch of Demme's documentaries. And we had a great relationship. Early on in my career, I did not pay much attention to visuals because I was very, very into performance and really wanted to put my time there. And I've gotten more and more. I think TV work has actually made me more attuned. But this is an amazing theater. I mean, I came in at the end and I was watching. I was like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And it made me realize, I don't think I've really shouted out to the operators enough in public, and to our focus pullers, and the stuff on the field. I mean, people really, when we were in the edit room, we had very, very few times where we were like, oh, that's too soft, we can't use it, or, the frame is wrong, And Charlie and I had a lot of conversations early on about, defining Mexican immigrants in New York, and with the production designer as well, how much have they brought here, and how much is here, how much is the U.S. and how much is Mexico. And I think he was veering a little bit more toward, he wanted to make it really beautiful, and I just wanted to make sure we didn't exoticize it too much. I wanted it to be kind of ugly a little bit, but gorgeous, And so we had a lot of great back and forth. I see him bringing a light in and setting it up. I'm like, Charlie, what? Why? Why? Don't worry. It's gonna be fine. I'm gonna know. And he talked me down a lot, and I'm grateful because, I think it's gorgeous, but it doesn't feel overwrought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, since we went through that a little bit, I was just going to ask you about the script writing process a bit. How did you think about doing this initially? What made you think, I'm going to make this story?
Oh man, I wrote the original script 13 years ago.
Wow.
And it's so long ago, I don't remember the first day when I thought, I had a lot of spheres of influence. Like I worked on a bunch of documentaries. I helped my wife, who made 2 documentaries about a migrant farm worker family in Texas and Mexico and California. And a lot of what I saw and experienced with them found its way in here. I worked in a restaurant in San Francisco with a number of guys from the Yucatan and Elmer and a Baltazar. They're paid homage to in this film, and that was part of it. And then I don't remember where the idea of like this, someone is, wants to play, but they have to work came from. It was just a, I don't know. It just popped in my head, and it sounded like a good dilemma to tackle because it's it's not so easy to sympathize with, I think I find that like challenging, the idea that you could say like, shut up and work, like it's ridiculous.
But it's also about the group dynamic being more important finally than anything else, like the loyalty and the group dynamic between them. And one of my favorite moments actually is when he's just eating his lunch. Yeah. There's that really long take where he's just eating his lunch. And it's something so gratifying about just watching someone think, and you really feel like he's actually thinking. It's a wonderful take.
He was great. I mean, obviously for that character, so much happens off the dialogue, and he has a lot of characteristics of Jose that Fernando does. I mean, he's not playing himself in any way, but he definitely, he's a real, like, he skydives on the weekends upstate, and he dances salsa, takes classes, and does performances. He has studied English. He had braces when we met him on the street initially, which made me think, like, okay, this is interesting. This guy is like furthering himself.
Yeah,
he's a hustler, and I think that somehow allowed him to connect. The direction I gave over and over and over again was like right before the scene started, we had this thing, and I would say, Fernando, how many problems do you have? He's like, well, 1, 2, okay, good. Just think about it. What's going on? Remember they talked about someone's going to sleep on the floor next to you in that other scene, like that. You're coming after that scene, and who do you think is going to be sleeping on the floor? Elizabeth, right? You haven't told them yet. So keep that in mind, things like that. In terms of the other actors and the group dynamic and stuff like that, I find that whether it's non-actors or really highly trained professional actors, a lot of the things are the same. Give people things to do, give people things to be thinking about. Some actors can grab that themselves and run with it, right? And then some others need to be told, like, why don't you go get a Coke from the fridge, and then when you come back over here, you could pass it here. And it's just little things like that allow them to be in the space, and then they can then they take it from that and are more comfortable somehow,
Yeah. Yep. Have you shown it in Mexico?
Yeah, I have hopes to. We didn't get into 3 different festivals in Mexico so far, but we haven't sold any foreign territories. We're hoping we would do well on a release here and then start that process. So I'm sure it's going to come out in Mexico, and it'll be interesting to see what the reaction is. They have an election coming up in a week. 2 days, is it? Okay.
I lived there half.
Exactly. And I've found that, sometimes, like, there's a big West Coast, East Coast difference, and there's a big South, North difference. But we had great screenings in California, and because I do think, people who live in LA or on that coast, their lifestyle is a little different. They're not bike delivery guys, because there's not bikes riding around LA, like here. Just little things and big things, but it seemed very relatable, out west, which was really nice. And then, so I hope that translates as well below the border.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. One thing that you said that just to sew it up, one of the things I loved about the film is I felt so made me love New York a lot. Partly because you have such a strong sense of place. You actually really, it doesn't feel so much like, a lot of the time we have to use bits and pieces of a city and kind of sew them together, but you really stood firm, and like you really feel like this is a place, and you stuck with it. And also just the fact that, I don't know, it just made, it was a very gentle film, even which I think was necessary at this moment. Like, it feels like a film that's not in the sense of it has a very strong point, but there's something about it that has a warmth to it. And I think it radiates partly from his character. There's a wonderful scene where he's just looking, you're actually away from camera, and he's talking to Elizabeth. And he's just saying, I think you'll love it here in the big city. And it's just so touching to me somehow, him saying that, that he's advertising this life that he has to offer. It's, yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, it was just a great thing to work on. It's changed my life in so many ways. Like, for me to make a tiny film and to put like years into it and money a lot and time, it's gotta have a reward. I mean, everything has a reward. The process has a reward. Making art has a reward, but this has like extra because, I've been introduced to a whole community of people and a whole other thing that now, is now part of my life, and it's great, and yeah, and it's really satisfying that it turned out pretty nicely. So, those guys. One of the guys actually just got a role in a film that's filming here and in Mexico. A couple scenes. He has a minor part in this. He's one of the guys in the dumpster at the beginning. A lot of our guys auditioned for it, but he was the only one who got it, which was interesting. And a bunch of them do want to act. So if anyone has any projects for them, I can hook you up. And we're trying to hang in there at the IFC. The film has been doing really well, and for me, like I feel like the better it does, the more people will feel confident about financing films like this and distributing them, because both of those were really difficult for us. So if you like the movie and you can spread the word, we certainly have another weekend there at the IFC coming up. And I think if we do well, they're gonna keep us around. So I don't like to be so like begging about it, but it's it's part of the deal.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, you can find past episodes of The Director's Cut wherever you listen to podcasts. In the coming weeks, we'll hear from directors Lauren Greenfield and Rawson Marshall Thurber, so be sure to click subscribe so you won't miss an episode. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.